If you think you have a stress fracture in your tibia, I'm going to explain in this video the most important things to do as soon as you discover that you have a stress fracture in your tibia. And here's also what I'll say. If you think you might have a stress fracture in your tibia and you're kind of in a denial loop, it is very important to break out of that denial loop, come to grips with the fact that you most likely have a stress fracture in your tibia, and do what I'm going to tell you in this video to start treating it and start to heal your tibia so that you can get back to the activities that you want to do. So if you have a stress fracture in your tibia, you most likely got it from running, and that is the first and most obvious thing to go, okay? You cannot run on a bone that has a stress fracture. And I'll also mention here that I use the term stress fracture to refer to bone stress injuries in general in the tibia, which could include stress reactions, which is technically a lesser version than a stress fracture, but needs to be treated in very close to the same way. So if you have a stress fracture or stress reaction, this is kind of what this video is about. So first thing, you can't run on it. You have to stop running if you think you have a stress fracture in your tibia. The other things that you can't do that's maybe a little bit less obvious is you can't do any weightlifting or weight training that puts pressure through your legs. So things like squats, things like single leg RDLs, even something like heavy weighted bicep curls. If you're standing with all that weight in your hand directs force through the tibia, and it directs load and weight through the tibia, and it stimulates the bones. And if you have a stress fracture or stress reaction, it's going to aggravate the bone, okay? So things that channel weight through your legs is going to be not helpful at this time, and definitely you don't want to be adding any weight to it. So things that channel weight through the legs also include things like biking. Biking is a very common alternative that people will use as a form of exercise when they're resting from running, but if you have a bone stress injury, putting pressure through that leg through the act of biking, especially intense biking, is not allowed. It's too much pressure through the legs, and it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be harmful, okay? The other things are going to be things like standing for a long time or walking, going for walks, okay? Not good to do, all right? If it's really sensitive, if you are absolutely walking around with pain throughout the day, monitoring your step count and keeping steps to a minimum will be helpful for you. Another thing to consider is footwear. If you're walking around in flat shoes with no cushion, it's a really good idea to get in a pair of soft, cushy shoes that have a little bit of a heel to toe drop, and that just kind of is a little bit nicer on the ankles. So you don't need to be doing any exercise. There's no stretch that you need to do. You don't need shockwave therapy. You don't need ultrasound. It's not necessarily something you need to ice or heat. You need to rest, and you need to decrease the pressure that is channeled through the tibia at all costs. So that includes running, walking, standing, weightlifting, and even biking, okay? Obviously, you need to walk to live your life, so keeping steps to a minimum can be helpful, and getting shoes that are soft, cushy, and have some degree of heel to toe drop and maybe some arch support can also be helpful. But if you think you have a stress fracture in your tibia, the only thing you need to do is aggressively rest, and the goal that we're shooting for is pain-free with daily activities for a minimum of 1 week. A minimum of 1 week of no pain in your tibia with your normal walking around before you can start any sort of prescriptive exercise program to rebuild your tibia and then get back to running in the future.